Welcome everyone on this new episode of Let's Talk. I'm super happy to be here today with Ignacio Melero. Ignacio, how are you doing?
Bonjour, Thomas. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm super happy.
Very good.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you.
Amazing.
Having me here. It has taken some time to find a proper slot for both of us, but luckily here we are. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, and thank you so much for coming on the show. I have a lot of questions. I know that I said that in every episode, but I'm truly curious about your background, what you've been doing, and what you're currently doing. I have many questions. But maybe for the people who might not know you, could you do a brief introduction of yourself just to give everyone an idea of what you've been doing and what you're doing right now? Just an overview.
Yeah, for sure. Well, right now I am here at the offices of Microsoft because I work here. I work as cloud solution architect for artificial intelligence in our segment of digital natives. That means startups and unicorns around Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So what basically I used to do is to support those startups in the AI journey, helping them to develop their solutions, not only with the new fancy generative AI, but also with traditional, AI solutions. So yeah, that's basically me. What I am currently doing.
Awesome. Amazing. I have many questions. Before I jump into those questions, I'd like, if it's possible, to do a retrospective of like where it all started. And maybe, so obviously it's very hard to like summarize a lot of years, a lot of experiences and relationships and so on. But if you have maybe key moments for you that you can share and we can get value from, just to get a short retrospective before getting into other things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, everything started in the north of Spain. I born in Pamplona, and now I am based out in Madrid. I studied telecommunications engineering and also telematics engineering, and I was in the university when I discovered that AI could be my thing, but also tech in general. I mean, I consider myself like a tech freak in general. So, and I started to study telecommunications engineer, but I discovered that probably telecommunications was not my thing. Like the theory itself. I consider myself more like a builder. So I turned really quickly into the software, and I started to program and do my own things. I started to learn about different programming languages, to explore basic things like create servers, websites with PHP. Remember those times. And after that, I jumped into AI with machine learning. I started to do my own projects with machine learning. So that was more in the university that I started to have some curiosity around that world. But to be honest, at those times, I have no clue about things like cloud computing, these kind of things that after my life I have discovered. And I decided to move from Pamplona. That's a small place in the north of Spain, as I said. I moved to Madrid. I continued to study there. Some master's thesis around telecommunications and telematics, but very focused on machine learning. There I started to work in the Carlos III University here in Madrid as a researcher. So my main idea at that moment was to do a PhD. But as I said, I discovered very fast that I prefer to build applications, to build things instead of, made papers, these kind of things. I have my experience doing that, but it's not my passion at this moment. And was in the university when I started to build a company, a startup at that moment, but that's some years ago. I decided with the current CEO of the company, Antonio Artes, we decided to give it a try and to build what it is now, Evidence-Based Behavior. This mental health based startup with artificial intelligence. And what what the company is doing at this moment, because it's already running. We have developed solutions to monitor and predict different mental diseases, basically. And the mission of the company is to give objective data to the psychiatrist, based on 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 all these data that we process with different machine learning algorithms. So that was my first, let's say, practical experience with AI that really gave value to the society. So that was really good, because my previous projects before that are more, like, do predictions, regressions of things. You play with the data, but it's really good to see when these solutions brings value to the people. And with evidence-based behavior, we discovered that it was possible. So it was very good experience for me. I was one of the co-founders, as I said, and at that moment I played the role of chief product officer. So basically, I focused on the development of the product itself, and the product is basically a mobile phone application for Android and iOS. So yeah, in that moment we focused a lot on the development of that application. That is the one that we use to track all the data from the patients, and after, with that data, we put it all together, MongoDB database at that moment, and we started to play with different algorithms in order to see what we can get from that information with different deep learning algorithms. And we discovered that it's possible to characterize the behavior of a person. That after allows you, to determine if that person is on a crisis stage, or because the mental health professionals, like the psychiatrists, they used to play with subjective information that comes from the patients, but they don't have actual data to play with. And what we try to do at that moment is to bring the data to the psychiatrist, so they have more at the end, more weapons to take a decision, even if it is if they want to care about the patient with different kind of drugs or whatever. But to take an informed decision is much better to just do it with the subjective information that comes from the patient. So also we have doing some investigations around the prediction of suicides for people with suicide tendency. So that was also really nice. And yeah, that was basically my experience on evidence-based behavior. So as you can see, I have some entrepreneur spirit. And after that, I decided to continue exploring and to leave the startup ecosystem just for a while. And I started to work in Acciona. Probably this company is a huge oil and gas construction company based in Spain. And I started to work for Acciona Energy as a data scientist. Well, we did a few things related with predictive maintenance for white turbines, these kind of things. Also, is applying different models of machine learning, working with different partners, because that solutions at that moment are deployed to the cloud. So I haven't mentioned it, but also in evidence-based behavior, it was my first experience with the clouds, actually. Because as all the startups right now, at that moment we were not full cloud native, but almost, because we use some servers from the university, of course. But we started to also to work with the cloud. We deployed our backend Kubernetes. We use MongoDB for the unstructured data, and after students for the machine learning perspective, we do it in our own servers. It's a very tricky question to when you started to work in a healthcare ecosystem, because you need to care, about the protection and privacy of the data, what you do, what you handle, how do you handle the data of the patient. So it's not easy. It's if you want to get all the certifications also for the United States, but for Europe, you need to take care about a lot of things. So also the cloud at that moment helps you to to be sure that the solutions that you are using have those certifications. So it's also very good for that. So I started to play with the cloud at the moment, also in Acciona. And I was in Acciona when I had the possibility to work with a partner of Microsoft, very closely with them. Um, and yeah, and after that, I have the opportunity to join Microsoft here in Madrid. Very lucky, to be honest, at the moment, because what's funny, I come for the startup ecosystem, and at that moment I have never thought about joining a company like Microsoft. I feel very builder and I want to create everything by my own. So, but after you discover the dimensions of the cloud and all the things that at that moment Google, AWS, Microsoft were doing, that was really amazing for me, and I started to see this as a real possibility for my career. So was really lucky that Microsoft was interested in me, and I joined the company 6 years ago right now. And always really close with the application development in the cloud, and also with AI solutions in the clouds right now, like clouds of Azure. That is the one of Microsoft. So yeah, I have spent like 6 years in different roles, but all of them related with cloud native development of applications in cloud, application innovation, AI. And the last year, I have been focused on this digital native segment. So that means that I work more for the startups and the unicorns ecosystem. And in the past, I have been working more for the enterprise segment. So that means, big enterprise companies that the challenges are completely different, but we can talk later about this. But yeah, I'm missing some things, but I think that I have touched like most important part of my career now. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. That gives a lot of perspectives. And I'd like to ask you about, with your background, now you're currently at Microsoft. You've been working at key moments on very interesting problems that I'm super curious to ask about. But I always like to ask the state of the art of the guest. And by that, I mean, what are you currently trying to achieve? When you are in an entrepreneurial stage, which you might still be, you mentioned that you still work very closely with unicorns and startups. You are like solving real world problems, and you surely still do. But what is your what drives you? What is your big goal? What are you currently trying to achieve, or what are you excited about?
Yeah, good question. Well, it's difficult to know because what drives me is my passion for technology. So I always like to be really, really close where things are happening. And I see that, Microsoft fulfills me in that sense because I have the opportunity to be really close to the last trends uh, around all the aspects in technology, to be honest. Because, I have been here 6 years. In the last 6 years, we have done amazing things, not only with AI, but also in the developer ecosystem. Uh, I lived here. When Microsoft decides to have a .NET Core open source, and we started to contribute a lot in the open source community. So that was also amazing moments here. So what drives me is to be close to those trends, technology trends. Now it's super good to be here in the partnership that we are doing, not only with OpenAI, but with other players in the AI ecosystem. And it's really, really good to be in that wave, but be inside and see what is happening inside this generative AI wave. It's really good because it's not only the vision of the consumer itself of the solutions, but also of the producer. So it's really nice to be closer to the product, to the people that is actually doing the generative AI tools that we are right now using. So it's really nice to be closer to them. So as soon as I am well connected to the last technological trends, I will be fine. But it's true that also I have this entrepreneur spirit inside me. So as an ambition, I want to become 1 billion solo founders that Sam Altman is talking in the last weeks. I don't know if you have heard about that statement, but Sam has said that he's imagining the future that we're gonna have like companies valued $1 million that they have just one person. I don't support that statement, to be honest, because I really trust that there is going to be AI-based companies of 1 million valuation, that's for sure, but not only with one person. I think that a team is needed always. You need people to really achieve success in every company. So I'm not really agree with that part of just one person, but I am 100% sure that we're gonna see a lot of new startups in the upcoming years that the core of the solution is based on artificial intelligence. That's for sure. And it's part of what I am right now doing, and I am seeing on the companies that I am working with. But yeah, summarizing, what drives me is that's passion for technology. I'm not sure what I want in the near future, to be completely honest. I'm super happy right now with what I am doing, and I am enjoying a lot the times that you are currently living. So I couldn't imagine a better, a better period of the history to being alive than this one. It's insane what is happening around the technology ecosystem. I know that there are things that make us, to have some fear about what is coming, but yeah, I am very tech optimistic, let's say. So yeah, really, really happy at this moment with these trends.
Awesome. Yeah, I think my follow-up question is: you have a unique view on the technology. You were yourself a founder. I'll do some founder questions, some entrepreneurship questions. But what I'm super curious is that you've also been very close to the technology and like how the cloud got big. And so you mentioned MongoDB, but the scaling. I always like to rethink on a timeline since year zero. How small is the internet and everything. And so because you have such a unique experience working at Microsoft, but also being a founder, solving users' problem, talking to customers, but also hands-on technology. And now you're crafting these Gen AI solutions or AI solutions with unicorns and other companies. So what is your unique view on the overall growth of the technology? Like, what is your feeling? What is your intuition? Maybe not to predict the next 5 years, even though if you can, please share. But so there is a lot of hype, just to add a little bit more context to it. There is a lot of hype. The buzzword AI doesn't seem to stop appearing everywhere. So here in this is a safe zone, by the way. When we say AI, we're speaking either classical machine learning, like algorithms and so on, or Gen AI, which is like LLMs and the agents and the agentic systems and so on. So with all these contexts, what is your intuition? What is your feeling regarding what's going on in the industry and how it might impact the next generation in terms of capability? You mentioned the 1 person, 1 billion business. I like the idea. Even though Ray Dalio would argue that you need other human beings to cover your weaknesses. And so by doing it, but maybe AI can cover your weaknesses. I don't know. This is another question, but yeah, what is your intuition? What is your feeling? And do you have some maybe thoughts and ideas about strong points?
Yeah. Well, it's difficult to predict because probably now during this podcast, somebody's launching a new model, some opening is creating new stuff. Everything is going really, really fast. But yeah, maybe here is that you probably have seen that hype cycle of Gartner that they used to launch, and last year I think that generative AI was in the peak of inflated expectations. That was 1 year ago. But it was really close to cloud native as well. So that surprised to me, because probably I am biased because I work with a lot of cloud native based companies. But that makes me to think that there are still some years to adapt, not only to EMEA itself for the companies, but to the cloud native. So we're going to see more and more companies starting to integrate cloud native capabilities, generative AI capabilities on their solutions. That's for sure. But it's true that, there is a huge difference between what we see on Twitter, Reddit, or any kind of other social network that you follow to keep up to being updated around technology, and what is happening, in reality, the business. I mean, the companies are complex, they're big, and they need return of investment. They need to take, conscious decisions with the technology. And that means that we are not talking only about, the use cases itself. This is also regarding the ethical questions, privacy, a lot of things that you need to take care when you are developing a solution for a company. So it's not everything like we used to see it on the Twitter or X. That we have those AI influencers that creates this fear of missing out all the time.
Yeah.
I think that things requires time to be adapted in the companies. In the big ones, probably more. In the unicorns startups that they are right now, they are right now developing their solutions and the use cases, probably less time because they are basing their solutions on this kind of capabilities and technologies. So that depends on the maturity stage of the company. So we want to see that in the next few years, there's going to be very disruptive business, new business that they leverage as maximum the generative AI capabilities, but there are going to be others in different segments. I don't know. I'm thinking like, for example, manufacturing or other segments that, of course, generative AI is going to impact them. It's not going to be that critical, at least not at this moment. So, I think that we need to really start to think about the return of investments when we are thinking on any AI and generative AI. And also, you have mentioned it, and I think it's important because now everything is generative AI. Everyone wants to talk about that. But, from my experience, I see more traditional AI solutions right now bringing more value to the table that the generative AI wants at this moment. But this is natural. I mean, traditional AI has been there for the last 20, 25 years in production. I mean, the companies, of course, in terms of research, more and more, we're talking about more than 50 years. So we need to have a healthy balance between the inflated expectations and what we can really get from the technology. So my view here is that generative AI, of course, is going to change the world as we understand it right now. It's changing it at this moment. Things are happening. I work with very disruptive companies that they are creating crazy solutions that they going to impact our daily lives. That's for sure. In the different, segments, healthcare, retail, how we understand marketing, because, Gen AI at this moment is multimodal. So we are not only talking about text. We are starting to talk about images, about videos. We are talking also about reasoning with the last O1 model that's OpenAI launched last weekend. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of changes, but from the point of view of the big companies, there's going to be a period to adapt all those changes, is what Ghana used to mention. After the hype of inflated expectations, you have this kind of deillusionment periods, and after this, the plateau of, production and everything starts to pop up. What I really think is that it's impacting right now some areas that are going to make a huge difference. For example, from my point of view, that I have been very connected with the developer ecosystem all my life, is incredible what developers they can do right now with generative AI. I am talking about GitHub Copilot, for example, or any kind of model connected to Cursor. That is this ID solution that allows you to connect any model, even if it's open source or whatever. And got an assistant to program. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, probably you're using it so much. I have been using it for a while, and it's incredible. The impact in the developer journey is huge. And for me, that means that we're going to see, this is not, for me, it's not impacting but at all to any developer, because we're going to see developers empowered to do more and more things and to create much more faster. That makes more innovation. That means also more startups, more solutions, more products, more features around the current product. So I used to work with software as service companies, and it's amazing, because if they are faster, they are adding more features to the product. That means that the product is much better over time. So I think that this is a huge impact, and we are going to see the results in the next 3, 4, 5 years translated into products that are incredible from the point of view of the user experience, because they have been able to develop and iterate and add a lot of features much more faster than before. So yeah, in those terms, I think that we are going to experience a huge change from the point of view of the software itself, the software as a service solutions. All those detail-based solutions are going to experience a huge change. We are seeing it right now. I think that if you go now to X, discover that there are more and more and more and more indie hackers doing more and more stuff. That the reason is because now something that in the past can take you more than 3-6 months to develop, a website with a backend, with a database, with everything, connect everything with a Stripe to get some money. Now, everything is much smoother, faster with all those assistants for coding. So I think that is a huge impact. For me, is the thing that really impacted me and blowed my mind, because the rest of the things of generative AI and the use cases are really good, are really relevant, but are not at the dimension of the impact in coding, to be completely honest. So yeah, that's my that's my vision. I'm looking forward to see what is coming, to be honest. But as I said, I said, I think that we need to be very conscious, all of us, all the people that we are around, around the technology ecosystem, even if you are more technical, less technical, in the business decision side, whatever. I think that we need to be also conscious and try to be very aligned with the responsible AI principles, the privacy principles, because I mean, I know that could sound like a cliche, but that is going to be one of the challenges of the humanity right now.
Agreed. Yeah, you mentioned very, very important points. Well, it reminds me a lot of the beginning of the internet, and like the people who are at the beginning just like created a website, and they were looking at their website and they were like, cool. And there were no really, it was just like, they weren't like Google ads and marketing, and I want to like increase the click through and CTAs. No, you just add your page, because I'd say your name and your text, and that was it. And for the internet to fully capture the vision, like when Google Maps arrive, is it going to be free? How do you generate money from that? And then you had like social networks, and then you saw new trends that you wouldn't have thought without seeing them, right? And I really agree in what you said. By the way, I use Cursor myself. I know that Copilot can be integrated in Cursor at the beginning, I believe. And it has been mind-blowing. We have an application called Levelcast, and basically it just helps us with like extracting the information from the podcast and like preparing posts in the formats and everything. Why do I mention that? before I had no React background, for example, and so I had a very clear idea of how to build the backend, but I wanted to give a look at React, right? And so I was both using some video and like courses just to have the high level idea and concept and like what best practices looks like so that I don't do a monster, because this is one of the challenges. But if we don't have the overall context of like what goods looks like, we can do horrible things with LLM's enhanced code, right? So, and this I was able to build it in weeks, and I'm talking about an end-to-end applications with quite some features, not just the hello world button, right? It does very useful things for us. Um, and so this is truly, I truly relate in that the only industry I can very, very well measure my time and how much time it saves. And even I would argue that unlock new capabilities that can be measured, because before I couldn't do them, but now with these augmented tools, like you mentioned, they're available. It has been a very easy, unique value added to the fit. So I totally relate to that. And then I wanted to do a follow-up questions regarding startups. So if we're not speaking of coding, you work end to end, and I guess right now there are multiple things. I would be curious about things that I ask afterward. Right now, iterating with startups and trying to capture the value of Gen AI, because I believe that all the industries are now trying to understand how can this be useful. You mentioned it multiple times, ROI. Like, how do I make money from that? And my intuition is that the tools that are going to be enhanced with AI, that are going to be sold to enterprise or customers, B2C, are the tools that are going to augment humans. So what do I mean by that? I mean that we'll be surrounded with tools that will make us just way more efficient. No need to have as much meetings. Always, because I think one of the key skills of humans is like synthesis. Like, can I synthesize the key ideas so that I can take the best decision? I think that key principles in terms of like adding value, creating value are synthesize idea and just take good decisions and being consistent about it. Okay, so with all that said, working closely with startups, what are some impacts that you're very excited about, if you can share, or maybe industries or use cases that you're looking at right now that are using Gen AI and not necessarily on the coding experience, which you described quite well. Could you share some information regarding that?
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, of course, this is a very open question because it depends a lot on the industry, as you mentioned, Thomas. And also there are like two different approaches for the AI capabilities from the point of view of the companies or the startups. In this case, one is what I can do with this technology for my internal usage. It means for my employees, and that could be GitHub Copilot for my developers, or or for my employees to have other kind of solutions. As you know, in Microsoft we have Copilots that helps you with different tools like Microsoft Word, Office, General, or with Outlook to summarize emails, summarize meetings. If you are not in the meeting, have a summary with the task assigned to you. These kind of things that you can leverage in your daily job. This is one of the dimensions, how I can be, more productive as an employee for my company. And this is something that, of course, everyone is looking for. Because if your people is more productive, that's the return of investment of that is more clear. If people is more productive, probably you are bringing more value faster. So that is super clear. All of the companies are looking for that, even if they are startups, big enterprise customer. Everyone is looking for that. The second dimension is, let's say, the valley of uncertainty, because is how I can infuse AI in my technology that is consumed by other customers or in my products. And that's for some of the startups is a challenge, because you have mentioned it very well. The return of investment is critical. As you know, these large language models used to run in a cloud provider. For example, if you want to use the models of OpenAI, you can use it through Azure OpenAI, and at a scale, and also being compliant with the GDPR. If you need to deploy these models in Europe, you can do that with Azure OpenAI, for example. But you need to be conscious of that scale, because that is going to cost you some money, that's for sure. So you need to be sure that you have do the exercise of the return of investment, that you have do a correct, dimension of what are you expecting to consume from the point of view of the large language of the large language models, and how much you are going to earn in your platform because you have this new feature based on large language models. So for some customers, it's a discussion, a very interesting discussion actually, but it's a discussion that they need to have in order to understand, hey, this is impacting us from the point of view of visibility, marketing. We can add, new tiers into our products because we are adding these premium features, and we can build this in another different tier. We are increasing the pricing of our products because we are adding this. It's enough, it's not enough. They have these kind of internal discussions that are very relevant. For example, in our internal experience as Microsoft, as you know, we are also the owners of GitHub. And in the case of GitHub Copilot, that is a pure AI-based application. What we are doing is to build that feature like an extra feature that has his own cost, this kind of things. So these kind of conversations are happening right now in the startups, and for them are the critical ones. Most of them, I will say that they are able to find the return of investment. If you are not able to do it, that means that probably you don't need to use it, because that's one of the things that I used to say. I mean, makes no sense to arrive with the technology and try to look where to use it. What makes sense is to identify your problems and check if they can be solved with generative AI, for example. That's, for me, is the good way to think. I prefer to go to the startups and discuss about the current challenges and problems that they have, and then see if we can, use generative AI or whatever traditional AI, I don't know, to solve those problems. It's always a better approach, because then it's easier to identify the return of investment. If it is a problem for you, probably we're going to solve it, and probably the return of investment is going to be clear, and you're going to be able to adapt your pricing or whatever, depending on of course, on the business model of the company. We are also working with other startups that they are not that digital, let's say. There are startups in Europe that they are building rockets, for example. So it's clear that for them it's more important, like, how to add productivity into my employees more than how to add features into my product that is a rocket. So it's not that easy. I mean, what I'm going to add there to that brings value is not that clear. So it depends a lot on the industry. For me, the software as a service industry itself, it's super clear that it's bringing a lot of value, the generative AI features, and those companies are having these conversations around how we are going to build this in order to get some return from this, because of course could have some cost. And if you don't control it properly, imagine a B2C company, for example, that is purely based on generative AI. That means that it's going to be expensive, because you have millions and millions of users daily using LLMs. The cost could grow really fast. So you need to have a business model that is, correlated with that. You can see a lot of examples in the internet that works like that. All the ones related with generation of images, for example. When you log in, you have some kind of free trial experience. You can create a few images, but really fast a pop-up appears and say, hey, you need to buy tokens because this is costing me a lot of money, so I need to compensate.
Right.
So that is clear. But yeah, there is a lot of discussions around the scalability, how this is going to scale, and depending if it is B2C or B2B, how we're going to price this. In the case of B2B, is different because maybe you don't need to at any extra cost because you are adding a lot of value, but you are not spending that much. Because imagine things that you can do on batch, for example, with generative AI. Now, as you know, we have these batch APIs that are cheaper than the normal APIs, and that means that the answer or the reply from your prompts could take 24 hours, for example, to be processed, and after you get the answer. But for batch processes in some solutions makes a lot of sense. So that means that it's not going to be that expensive. So for some B2B companies, the return of investment is super clear. I mean, they're returning a lot, investing just peanuts at the end of the day. For the B2C ones, it's more tricky. They need to have a clear business model because a B2C can scale really fast. You are not controlling the users. I mean, and your ambition is to have more and more and more users that's going to implies more and more and more consumption from the point of view of the cloud or whoever is your LLM provider. So yeah, in the B2C, we see more challenges and they need to be more careful with these features. The B2B, the return of investment is more clear because sometimes they don't need that much in terms of usage of the LLM, and they are getting a lot of value because they are, adding a feature that is super relevant for their customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I kind of see three phases, which are the first one, like you said, because the development of tools and features is enhanced and augmented. Therefore, all the other areas in the business are impacted positively because we can iterate faster and get to conclusions and lessons learned faster, which is a great thing, which push productivity as a whole for the company and therefore society. I'm making links that might be discussed or arguments. But the second point that you mentioned is like B2B. I really believe that we're going to see mainly B2B, like in the wow moments where we're going to see new applications is going to be B2B because starting the Amazon of the Gen AI or something like that, when you just go all in on the B2C or like the Netflix, it's quite challenging and not as many people are like able to design these infrastructures. And I guess we're still learning a lot about them. I'll ask you a follow-up question on that. And then you have the B2C. And well, I guess that you explained very clearly the challenges. So my follow-up question is, how was it like when OpenAI released, for example, GPT-3 internally at Microsoft from what you can share? And like, how did the collaboration impacted the learnings and how did you start building? And in the continuity of that flow from what you can describe and share with us, of course, how do you see this problem that you were mentioning, like the architecture and building it in a reliable manner? A lot of time the AI engineers are considered a lot just software engineers, but you handle better the error of the LLMs and you handle better the hallucinations and all kind of problems that you can imagine. So to summarize a little bit my question, from when GPT-3 arrived, the impact on yourself, on Microsoft, and on the lessons learned on the go, and like how do you see the overall architecture evolves and the challenges I'm very curious about all these things. I know that there are some things you can't share and other that you can. So I'm making it broad so that you can share the most value from all these elements.
Yeah, yeah, actually, it's a good point because people used to think that generative AI appears like 2 years ago, more or less. It was in November 2022 when OpenAI launched its ChatGPT to the public, and, and it was mind blowing for everyone because it's like the first, the first time in the history of humanity that everyone was like able to touch the artificial intelligence in a very
Yeah,
natural way.
agreed.
That is just talking.
Yeah,
And but the as we know, OpenAI and other companies they have been working on that for the last 10 years. Um, in our case, Microsoft, our first partnership with OpenAI was like 5 years ago, 2019. 1 year after that, OpenAI launched GPT-3. That is not the one of ChatGPT. That is GPT 3.5. Um, and with in that moment, what Microsoft started to do is to work in, of course, all the platform that we have right now available. Uh, that is our Azure AI platform, but also the Microsoft 365 Copilot. And what Microsoft started to do is to work internally in how to evolve and empower our Office solutions, well, our full ecosystem solutions, not only the one of Office, with this new generative AI model. So I think that they did a really good job in identify the potential of this before having the last super fancy models that we have right now, like GPT-4 or before having that with GPT-3, that it was not that fancy. It was good, but it was not at the at the level of the newest ones. They done a really good job in identifying that this is going to be critical and just to create that platform for the employees to have these capabilities with Copilot, but also for the platform of Azure to be able to support all the generative models that are going to be available in the future. Now, future is now. Because we are not talking only about the models of OpenAI. As you know, we have also other partnerships like Mistral in Europe. So with the platform of Azure AI, you are able to deploy any model, even if it is the one of Mistral, Llama from Meta, open source models from Hugging Face, like Falcon, whatever. There are a lot of, there is a huge catalog of models. So what we, as Microsoft, what we provide is the platform itself and the virtual machines that you need to run those models on top of. So yeah, was really, and to be honest, for the employees, it was not an open thing like 4 years ago. Was in the product side, they did everything by their own, and they did a really good job into to adapt all that technology into the current ecosystem. That's the reason that Microsoft has been the first one here in this new, let's say, AI trend. So yeah, from my perspective, was a very good decision to do that kind of partnership at that moment. And now with the platform that we have, so you have mentioned it. What about deploy reliable solutions based on generative AI? What about the life cycle? Monitor, evaluate different models, add some kind of safety on those models, content safety, this kind of thing. So this new term that we call it now, LLM ops, this is an evolution of machine learning ops. This is an evolution of DevOps. But at the end of the day, it's exactly the same. It's how we integrate this new tendency into the traditional, let's say, way to develop applications. So how we integrate that into the life cycle of the application, taking into account that there are new models all the time. We need to reevaluate. We need to monitor the behavior of those models. So that is adding new challenges. So you need a platform that allows you to tackle them. Which is critical for everyone to understand that you have mentioned it before. Now the AI engineer is not just somebody that create prompts. It's not the prompt engineer. It's the one that cares about the full life cycle of those LLMs. And that implies a lot of things. That implies DevSecOps principles that you need to take into account, and you're probably gonna need to be aware of course, of the new models, new versions, but have a flow that allows you to adapt those new versions to your solution, because you have mentioned it. The models have hallucinations. You need to deal with that. You need to sometimes fine-tune your models and adapt it to your context and to your business. And sometimes that also requires some reinforcement learning on top of your solution. So there are a few challenges that you need to consider, and also the security from the point of view of the content itself. Imagine that you have a customer-face application. You are a bank, and you create the customer-facing application based on LLMs. You don't want somebody talking about nonsense stuff that could, impact negatively to other customers or to other users. So you need to be very careful what is going on with that solution. So it's a challenge right now from the point of view of the architectures are not that easy. You need to take account all those things, and because when you see the experience of ChatGPT is super straightforward, but after the actual solutions that the companies are building are not like that, or not all of them are interactions through a chatbot. I mean, that could be also running, in the backend, processing data, summarizing text, use cases like, I don't know, imagine legal departments that they work with thousands and thousands and thousands of documents, lawyers, and they need to find something, a super huge library. This allows them to not only summarize, but also to, with the semantic capabilities to find super fast the relevant part of the documents that they need to use. These kind of things are not only based on keywords that, in the past we have these index searches that allow us to really find things super fast based on keywords, but now we are also using the semantic capabilities of the LLMs to find text in each amount of documents. So there are a lot of different kind of use cases that requires to introduce the solution in the backend in your application. That means that you need to respect the life cycle of the application itself. And yeah, it's great because now the developers are adapting themselves to this new trend. And the other day in another podcast, the one of ITNIC, they mentioned something that was really interesting, and they said, "Hey, we are looking for an AI engineer." One of the founders of the company, they say, "Well, we're looking for a software engineer because we are assuming that all of them they know about AI." But and there was an interesting fight because the CTO was saying, "No, but an AI engineer is not only someone that codes with Copilot. I mean, no, I am talking about somebody that understands that the full cycle of LLM." An LLM implies also the security, the monitor, the evaluation, the embeddings if needed. There are a lot of concepts around just a basic prompt. So it's interesting because it brings new challenges to the software engineers, and of course companies like Microsoft. What we are doing is to create the platform that allows you to tackle all these challenges. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that I relate to this. Just a note on the AI engineer, software engineer. I think every industry is having this shift, and this is still being defined. There are multiple podcasts, and I hear a lot about this. But I relate to this definition of AI engineer. I was thinking about the example that you mentioned on the law side. For example, let's say I want to find specific documents. And what I really like is that I can see how it's going to be enhanced. So let's say I'm a lawyer today. Before I needed to like read a lot of documents to have a lot of context. Now I have tools, let's say with RAG or other things, algorithm. I have tools that can help me move through the information faster to find what I want and take the actions that I'll take in the end. So maybe I reduced by 5 the time that I would spend for a specific task. What I like about, for example, the latest model of OpenAI, um, the strawberry, it's in preview. Uh, is it O1? Am I correct saying O1? This is a good name, O1. What I'm curious about this kind of agentic system, and when I say agentic right now, I'm not referring to the model O1 itself, even though they might have built some agents behind, but I would like say building an agent, for example, with long chain, and you have like a manager and things. And so I can really see in the future how, for example, me as a lawyer, I want to prepare the arguments to defend someone at a case. And before I will use AI to search specific information to like help me improve my arguments or like find new ways to defend my case. But I can also see how I can take agentic system, give them all the relevant information that I as a lawyer would search, and then it would run scenarios to, for example, train the other side of the table so that it have new relevant informations. It has like possible ways of thinking through my arguments, how to counterattack them. And now we're upscaling the level of it's not just this lawyer against me and who can find the most information in the minimum, like in the time that we have, and like makes a better case. It's like I can already prepare against you with my research tool and trying to find the best combination. I don't know much about law, so I might be saying like things that doesn't make sense, but I think that you can get the idea of where I'm going at with these agentic systems. And so, yeah, do you want to comment anything on that side, agentic systems in general, and next steps after the retrieval information? That being said, I'm very, very bullish in the short term in like non-structured data to structured data in basic batch, just like being able to structure this data that before we would need to listen to calls and everything. I really think that there is gold in the short term in that. But yeah, do you want to comment on both unstructured to structured and agentic
Yeah,
systems?
yeah, that's a really interesting point. I'm not an expert on laws either, but well, there is a company called Harvey AI that they are. I don't know if you know about them, but they are working with lawyers. This is a company based in Silicon Valley, if I'm not wrong, and they are growing really, really fast. They have developed like LLMs tailored for the legal, ecosystem. I think that this is going to have a huge impact in that segment because they work with a lot of text and documentation, so that makes a lot of sense. So if you have something that
Right.
could process that faster, is obvious.
Yep.
Yeah, regarding the O1, that has been with us just 1 week,
Yeah.
but there is a funny thing because I read a lot of people that comments, and also I have feedback from some
Yeah.
customers that they told me, but wait a second, but that means that the other models they were not reasoning, and the answer was no, not at all, because if you go for a GPT-4, you get an answer in just 1 second, 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds. So that means that it's not reasoning a lot. And usually what you used to do as a user is to create your own chain of thought with the model. I used to do that. I get the answer and I was like, no, I don't like it. I need to refine this more. And you start to ask more and more questions. And after you arrive to your final conclusion that looks good for you, more or less is what is happening now with this OI that is doing that reasoning, behind the scenes, and is creating that chain of thought that allows the model to give you a better answer if it requires some logical, thoughts in the middle, and that is very useful for complex problems or logical problems or coding or these kind of things. So it's really nice to see that we are starting now to open that world of reasoning capabilities, even if it takes more time, because allows also to people to start to understand the LLMs. Because, now when you start to understand that the traditional LLM, I hate to say traditional LLM because they are not traditional, everything is new, but
Yeah.
the ones with no reasoning capabilities, you understand that it's just a prediction of the next most possible word, but it's that prediction, and after the body is just throwing words that makes sense for you because you understand the human language, but that doesn't mean that has a logical, meaning. The model has not done any kind of reasoning on top of that. So now with this chain of thought that is an agentic based, solution at the end, there are different agents probably combine one with each other, with the other, and after, creating those decision tree that finally arrives to a conclusion. That's really interesting. And before having this O1 or these reasoning models with the agentic strategies, you are able to do these kind of things and to have different agents with different purposes, or agents that compare different answers between them in order to arrive to a better conclusion. That's an interesting thing. I also see, and I don't know your thoughts on this, Thomas, but I also start at least to scratch a little bit on what the new software is going to look. And what I mean with that is that I can imagine that the interfaces of the products, of the software, they're going to change a lot with this, because now we are very used to search things on a bar. Like, hey, I go to my bar here in my browser, I tap something, and Google or Bing or something give me an answer, and then I navigate, I go to another website, and this is a software as a service that I click on the interface, and I can do some search, like Netflix. I want to search a film, I need to type the name of the film. If I type something like, I want to see a movie with some sort of action, but also comedy, but I don't like this actor, or I don't like this person, and also I don't like this director, or I love this director. If you type all of that in the bar of Netflix, you get nothing because it's not, it's not adapted for that. But I can imagine a world where the interface is going to change a lot, and everything is going to be more natural for us, and it's not going to be click, 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 and it's going to be more like, I type what I really want to look for, and I get an answer. But then there are people from the front end world that told you, hey, but Ignacio, people, they don't know what they want. That's the reason that we have a huge, a dashboard with options and everything. But I think that something is going to change there. And to being able to have these kind of capabilities, we're going to need the agents, because when you type in this bar what you are looking for, probably there are going to be different agents that process your prompt, your query, your text, and throws that answer to the API of the backend, to another LLM, to an analytical platform. So there's going to be like a one single point of interaction with the platforms, and after those agents, they're going to do the process, and they're going to identify what you need. And I really imagine this kind of products, like, even if it is true that you're going to have always options and interfaces to do the click, 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 if you don't have ideas, you're going to have always that option of, hey, ask me whatever you want, I'm going to do my magic. And the magic is going to be a multi-agent, solution that could ping the backends, could ping an LLM, could ping analytical platforms, could ping whatever. And you're going to be able to get a response of whatever you want, even if you are on Netflix or another kind of platform. And that's amazing. I mean, I really want to be in that kind of, of products that not only typing text, also with the voice. And we're waiting to the voice-to-voice solution of OpenAI, that they have announced a few months ago. That is going to be really interesting to talk with your TV, for example, but have a fluent conversation with your TV. Like, hey, dear TV, I want to know how many films has Brad Pitt. 73. And how many are about comedy and romance? Just 12. Okay, from those 12, how many has the best, rating on Film Affinity? These three are the best rated. Okay, so put me this one. This kind of, super fluent interaction with the platform. I think that this is something that is coming, and the agents are the ones that are gonna allow you to have this new look and feel applications. Maybe it's not going to be like that. This is just my imagination, my way to
Yeah.
see the future of the products. But
Yeah.
could be interesting.
Yeah, to be honest, I love the response because a lot of times we hear about agents and so on, but I like to give very specific examples. And I really agree. Right now, we're like augmented ourselves at a small scale. But what if society is augmented? And you don't even think, how I like to say fire was a technology, but now we take fire for granted. Or like a spoon was a technology, but now a spoon is a spoon. And like this, I think is going to be similar. And to be very precise in what I believe, I definitely agree. We can think of agents like it's not going to be just an algorithm that knows you better through time. It will exist, but maybe it will be controlled by an agent that can also take other inputs or whatever that would looks like. Maybe like new things will exist, but the overall experience, and I'm very excited about. I think I agree is the same. I believe that UI is going to be changed a lot, or like user experience in general, not necessarily with a computer, but in like what we do. Like you have these humanoid robots that are coming. That's also going to be fun. Uh, um, and so when you combine all these capabilities, which I'm very excited about, and there are these thematics of ethics and like legal and everything, which might delay what we would like to see. One specific things, and I've mentioned them in previous episodes, is that I'm super curious about is UI integration. So I'm super bullish, first of all, on UI and on education. What you mentioned before, being able to ask any question at any time and have an answer, has never been seen before. And you know how sometimes, let's say I'm a child and I'm growing up in a specific family, and maybe this family will set up beliefs in terms of like, I'm very curious and I ask a lot of questions, but early in my age, I'm being told, like, why are you asking so many questions? Or like, but if that's broken and I can just have no limits to my curiosity, this is going to have a big impact in my life. And look how an entire generation powered with unlimited curiosity would look like. So that's something I'm curious about. And this is a seamless experience, not using a computer or anything. And as for UI, which is my last bullet point, I really believe in new ways that we experience. So you were mentioning, I arrived to Netflix. I'm like, I can talk to it, and the UI can change. So let's say I want to buy something. Uh, it helps me finding because we know one thing: users don't know what they want, but they know that they're looking for something, but they're not sure what. And so if we have like voice AI that can understand the users, guide the users through what we need, which is kind of the next step to me, the next step in terms of personalization. So right now we have algorithms. Netflix knows what you would like to see, etc. But next step is I'll help you figure it out, and I can move the UI for you. So I can like, do you like this dress? And up, it shines more, and like this seamless integration with backend and front end, and you're like immersed into it. You don't even think about it anymore. It's just like, and then I want to see holograms, but that's that's something. I don't know if you want to comment anything on this
Yeah,
point to close, maybe.
I am very bullish too around that topic of the UI. To be honest, because I imagine exactly that, Thomas. I know that if there are software engineers or developers hearing us, they're gonna say, "Hey, but you know that this is not that easy." It's true. It's true because stability on the applications is a key point, and resiliency, and you need to take care about that kind of things. And when you create something that is dynamic, then those things are not that stable, and we know it. But it's true that if we are able to overpass those kind of challenges from the development perspective, I'm pretty sure that the UIs, they're going to look like that. Very more personalized to each one of us. Even if it is the same product, could looks completely different for Thomas and for Ignacio because our own, interests or kind of questions or kind of way to navigate or to search to do things. And I am pretty sure that this is going to be like one of the main changes in the future of interfaces, because that was related with what I am mentioning before. If you are able to, and this is something that now with the current applications is not happening, you are not creating dynamic code, but if you are able to, from a prompt, have an agent that goes to the backend and if needed creates new code that displays into the screen, that's going to be the way to do that. That is going to be a huge change because you're going to be able to have dynamic projects, and the potential of that is it's unlimited, to be honest, because it's not going to be only the UI, but it's going to be also the information that comes from the backend, and the user is going to have the power to get all the data that needs to to solve all the problems that they have. So I couldn't imagine that, to be honest, because also I am not an UI UX designer. Probably there are people that they have spent a lot of time on that. They know the theory very well. They say, hey, but you can't do a lot of changes because then people, they don't like it and their minds, that these kind of things. But it's true that I expect more dynamics interfaces. But what I really like to have is sometimes you are with a simple application. I don't know, you are working with a delivery app. You are ordering your burger for dinner, and you, as a user, you used to identify like, hey, I'm missing something. I'm missing a button here that allows me to do whatever. People is really creative, and they used to have these comments. I am missing this, or imagine if this application. Most of the people, they don't give feedback to a company. Of course, they are normal people. But maybe if you are in the developer, world, you think, hey, if I give feedback, probably somebody's gonna take it, and if it is useful, they're gonna implement something. But people, they don't used to think about that. But if you are able to, as a user, say, hey, I don't like this, I need this, and and the application adapts to yourself, I think that could be really interesting. Also could be a mess, because people is crazy, and they could also try to do very crazy stuff. And from the security perspective, it's going to be a super huge challenge, because how you protect, your applications to be modified. I mean, that's the first principle of development. Your app couldn't be modified by anyone, only by the developers that they have access to that. So yeah, it's going to be difficult, but of course, it's going to be something that. Going to have huge impact, the UI, the user experience. Yeah, I think that is a very good opportunity for the UI UX professionals to start to think, hey, how we can leverage this and how we can give better experience to the final users. I think it's a very good moment to do this kind of start to think about this. Yeah,
definitely. I think that the current tools and frameworks that we have are like it's challenging to build these kind of things. But you know how like Elon Musk rethinked about the rocket, and before that, everyone was like slowly doing the same over and over, and we didn't see like new things. This is where like big opportunities are, and I really believe that it needs to, like we can follow conventional frameworks and what exists with these kind of ideas, because I can build a new application and it will have common patterns, but now we're thinking of a different architecture. Like we need to think about, I mean, I could say very specific tools to build it, like long chain and Python sync, and we want JSONs to be very structured. We want models like that checks what's going on, and so on and so on. But I can definitely see a world where those problems are being solved. And short term, I'm super bullish in the capability of voice and on how voice can enlighten us on where to go and what do people want, because people won't say what they want. They won't write a review. Some of them will. Um, but if now I can just speak with things, and things can be programmed to ask me things or just make me think different in different ways or challenge me, then because it's speaking and I don't have to write and send and do all these things and I can just say, oh yeah, no, I didn't really like the experience because of that. And I just leave and I go on to my day. But the scale at which we can gather information is huge. And so I really think that analytics, unstructured to structured, and voice in midterm are going to be very important to set the path of the next level big implementations of tools. Before I move to the final closing round, I have just two small questions for you. And you've been very generous with your time, so I want to thank you very much for that. Do you want to say anything related to the last point that I just made?
No, I think that indeed I agree with you. I think that we're gonna see some changes here, and now is a good opportunity to start to think about it. I mean, it's what you said. The example of Elon Musk and the rockets itself. I mean, maybe we need to start to rethink how we are developing stuff. I don't know. Have some frameworks that probably gonna help us to add new features, but potentially could be an opportunity to rethink the most common, patterns of or architectures of development. So I don't know. We want to see a lot of interesting probably updates around that. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Ignacio. So two last questions. The first one, where can people learn more about you and what you're doing or what you're currently looking for? If you have anything that you want to share, this is the time.
I'm very active on LinkedIn, so I will say that my LinkedIn is the best way to approach to me. Ignacio Melero Miguel, and yeah, anyone can find me there, can ping me. I'm open.
Awesome, amazing. And last question, and before asking you this one, thank you very much again for coming on the show. I had an amazing time. Now I just want to build things and just think through it. How do I connect back end and front end seamlessly to, like, I don't know, just build a basic, you have a header and a title page, and you just need with your voice to like make things change colors, and that would be the MVP of the ideas that we discussed today. But last question, do you have a message for the Let's Talk AI community? It can be anything we discussed. I know we haven't touched much on the founder experience entrepreneur. Maybe in the future we will, but do you have a message for everyone who is listening?
The message is that, as you mentioned it before, probably this is like the born of internet at that dimension. So if you are listening to us, probably you have some curiosity around this world. Leverage the opportunity to touch things, to put your hands on it, and to create and build new stuff. I think that this is the moment to be creative, to develop new things, new ideas. Potentially, that could become a startup from Microsoft I could work with. But now, seriously, I think it's a very interesting moment in the technology history. And we need also to, as even if this is a hobby or whatever, but I think it's a good opportunity to put your hands on, to test things, to create, to build, to crash things as well, because it's the only way to to check how things are working. And I will say that try to avoid like that sense of over information, because sometimes it's like a lot of information is coming to us, or a lot of people is doing a lot of stuff, and seems like you are the last one arriving here. But I think that this feeling is the same for everyone. So that means that even if there is a lot of things happening around, that doesn't matter. So that's also one of my comments. I don't have that fear of missing out all the time because I mean, if I open now X or my inbox of Outlook or whatever, they're gonna see new updates. Think people do things on, sometimes you need to just to relax and take your time to understand the technology, to do some hands-on. Even if you think that you are behind, the last trends, doesn't matter. I think it's better to interiorize the technology and to really start to think about what kind of problems you can solve with the technology that we already have, and take time for that. So I think that's the important thing. Sometimes it's difficult to find the product market fit, and it's related because we take the last trend, we try to throw it into the solution, but you haven't identified the problem. So I think that it's a moment to spend more time trying to solve problems, even if it is with the last technology or not, and yeah, to be very builders and hands-on. Yeah, that's my message for the community.
Amazing. Well, Ignacio, thank you very much, and I wish you to have an amazing day.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Thomas, for your invitation. See you next time.
Awesome. Ciao.